The flight attendant rolled her eyes, calling the black woman entitled and out of place in first class. Passengers stared as she mocked her tone and demanded she move to the back. But when the woman calmly revealed her U.S. Army ID, the entire cabin froze in silent shame. The morning sun spilled across the airport tarmac as passengers boarded Flight 782 from Dallas to Washington. D.C. among them was Captain Maya Jefferson, a poised black woman in her mid-30s, dressed casually in jeans, a plain jacket, and sneakers. Her calm presence and quiet confidence didn't draw much attention until she approached the first-class cabin. The flight attendant, a tall woman named Linda with perfectly tied hair and a clipped tone, scanned Maya's boarding pass with narrowed eyes. "Ma'am, I think you're in the wrong section," she said sharply, blocking the aisle with her arm. Maya smiled politely and replied, "No, seat 2A, it's right there." Linda's lips curled into a smirk. "First class is for priority passengers and premium members. Coach is that way." She pointed toward the back of the plane with a dismissive flick. Passengers began to turn their heads. Some whispered, others looked away awkwardly. Maya took a steady breath, her patience tested but her discipline intact. "I'm aware," she said calmly. "I paid for my ticket?" Linda snatched the boarding pass again, squinting as if to catch Maya in a lie. "You must have used someone else's miles," she muttered under her breath, loud enough for others to hear. "This happens sometimes." A man in a business suit chuckled softly, whispering something about wannabes. The humiliation burned, but Maya stayed silent, gripping her bag tighter. When the head attendant walked by, Linda quickly leaned in. "We might have a seat mix-up," she said in a sugary voice. "This lady claims she's first class, but her ticket seems off." The head attendant looked at Maya's ticket, scanned it with the handheld device, and frowned. "It's valid, Linda," she said quietly. "She's assigned to 2A, then she turned to Maya with a kind smile. "Welcome aboard, Captain Jefferson." Linda froze. "Captain?" she repeated, confused. But Maya didn't explain. She simply nodded and moved toward her seat, her dignity wrapped around her like armor. As she settled in, Linda's resentment simmered. She walked past Maya's seat again, accidentally, brushing her shoulder and sighing dramatically. "We'll try to make you comfortable," she said, dripping with sarcasm. During beverage service, she ignored Maya's polite request for water. Instead, she skipped her row entirely, offering drinks to everyone else. The man beside Maya whispered, "That was cold," shaking his head. Maya just smiled faintly and said, "You learn to pick your battles." But when turbulence hit an hour later and oxygen masks dropped for a brief moment, Maya was the first to help a crying child across the aisle, calmly guiding people to safety while the crew panicked. Her commanding voice cut through the chaos, steady, trained, authoritative. Linda stared at her, confused by the shift in power. This woman she'd mocked didn't just have grace, she had leadership. And when the plane stabilized, Linda's cheeks burned with the first flicker of regret. She had no idea who she had just disrespected. The cabin had returned to uneasy calm after the turbulence, but something had shifted. The passengers who had seen Maya take control during the scare now looked at her differently, respectfully, even curiously. Meanwhile, Linda avoided her eyes, busying herself with trivial tasks like rearranging napkins and pretending to check seatbelts that were already fastened. Maya sat quietly, hands folded, her mind steady as always. Years in the army had taught her restraint even when insulted. But when the captain of the flight made an announcement asking all passengers to remain seated while they assessed minor technical issues, the situation took an unexpected turn. A small boy across the aisle was trembling, holding his crying baby sister. His mother was pale, struggling to breathe, an anxiety attack triggered by the earlier turbulence. The crew looked unsure, frozen for a moment. That's when Maya stood up. "She's having a panic attack," she said firmly. "Lay her back slightly, loosen her collar," Linda tried to protest. "Ma'am, please take your seat." But Maya's tone cut through the noise. "That's an order." Her voice carried a weight that made everyone, including the attendant, stop. Calm, clear, commanding. She checked the woman's pulse, guided her breathing, and reassured the children in a voice both gentle and steady. The passengers watched in silence, phones forgotten, judgment erased. A few minutes later, the woman stabilized. The cabin erupted in relieved applause. The captain of the flight even stepped out from the cockpit to personally thank Maya. "You handled that better than most medics I've flown with," he said. Linda, red-faced, stood awkwardly nearby. "You seem to know what you're doing," she mumbled, half in awe, half in shame. Maya finally turned to her. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'm a U.S. Army officer. I've led rescue operations under enemy fire. But today I was just trying to fly home in peace." The words hit Linda like a thunderclap. Every ounce of arrogance drained from her face. I didn't know," she stammered. "I'm so sorry, Captain Jefferson. I didn't mean to—" Maya interrupted with calm dignity. "Respect shouldn't depend on what uniform someone wears," she said. "It should be your starting point." The cabin fell silent again, this time out of respect. A few passengers nodded, others looked ashamed. Even the businessman who had chuckled earlier now muttered, "Didn't see that coming." For the rest of the flight, Linda couldn't meet Maya's eyes. She offered water, snacks, even an apology written on a napkin. But Maya simply smiled and said, "Just learn from it." When the plane landed in Washington, several passengers waited for Maya to exit first, offering quiet thank yous. A few even clapped again as she stepped off, her head high, her posture straight, an image of strength and quiet pride. Outside, the captain of the plane saluted her. "Thank you for your service, ma'am." Linda stood behind him, watching in humbled silence, realizing she hadn't just disrespected a passenger, she had disrespected a hero.